So Millie, I don't know anything about what it was like when you were young. Did you know your grandma and your grandfather pretty well?
Well, let's see. On my mother's side, they lived in Fort Dodge, and I knew them quite well. My dad's family lived in Canada. They were originally from here and then ended up in Canada as railroad people. So I didn't know them so well. But I knew my grandma and grandpa in Fort Dodge. One of the first memories I ever had, my dad was a railroad man, and so we lived right by the railroad tracks. And I suppose one of my memories was hearing the trains go by in the middle of the night and stuff. And some people wouldn't like that, but it was just part of life. And then when my dad would get back from his run, he was on call for different runs, and then I could walk uptown. There was 2 railroad stations. The second one, I would walk uptown and meet my dad when he came in and walk home with him. That was a big deal, because he was gone a lot, Well, yeah, the town of Eagle Grove was a pretty good-sized center for Northwestern, I think it was, for Northwestern Railroad.
Where did your mom and dad meet?
At a dance, I think in Fort Dodge. My mom's family, some of them lived in Fort Dodge yet, and she used to go over there and they would go to a dance, some dances. They met at a dance in Fort Dodge.
What was your mom like?
Oh, my mom. This is funny because the girls and I were talking about her not too long ago. My mother was very quiet. She was, I thought, quite beautiful, and she was an excellent seamstress. And unfortunately, my dad died then at 59, which was pretty young, I think I was around 14. Very sad, because John was younger yet than I. So John and I were still living at home. We called my brother John, we used to call him brother. We called him brother because he was our only brother. And when he was little, they had us 4 girls. I was number 4 girl. I always think, I bet they were thrilled when I came. They probably wanted a boy. So then my mother was left with 2 of us children at home yet, and no income except what she could make sewing. There was not Social Security then. I'm talking about quite a few years ago. So my mother, she was my hero, She was sewed and sewed and sewed, and she made a living for us and for John and myself until we graduated from high school and left. And just very quiet and dignified. And she put us through college. John went to Ames, and he graduated.
He got an engineering degree, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So she did well, with her sewing. And we used to go to Canada a lot, to my aunt and uncle lived up there. Mm-hmm. And we could go up there for free.
Oh, that's nice.
And when my brother and I, John and I, were in high school, we took a train from here up to Canada by ourselves.
And that was Fort William and Port Arthur then, wasn't it?
I guess it was, yeah.
Yeah, they call it Thunder Bay now. It's all one town, but it was 2 towns then.
Yeah. From when I was old enough to remember, we had a car, an Oldsmobile. And then my dad he died, and my mother didn't want to drive the car, so I drove a little bit, but we didn't use the car too much.
Yeah, what was that like during the Depression for you?
Yes.
I never realized we were in a depression because my mother was very good at, as I said, she made her living sewing. And then, like food and stuff, you know, she was pretty good at, we were well fed.
Stretch, yeah.
And later I was surprised that one of my good friends said back in high school, they thought that I was rich
Oh,
because I had such pretty clothes because my mother made them for me. And she would take apart, she would get like a beautiful coat from one of her sisters, and she'd rip it all apart, clean it, iron it, and make me something out of that with good material. You know? So Mom kept me pretty well dressed through school, and John turned out to be quite accomplished.
He was the state leader in Knights of Columbus.
That was it, the Knights.
State leader, I think, state, whatever they call that.
I'm glad you're here to remind me. Quiet and gentle and tall and slender. And he was very religious, you know. And yeah, he got to meet the Pope, and that was a big thrill for him.
So John never got in any trouble when he was younger?
Well, not really, except after one Christmas, I think it was, I got a, let's see, he got a tricycle. He was 2 years younger than me, and he got a brand new tricycle for Christmas. But I got a, what was it? But I forget what it was. A wagon. It was a little red wagon, you know. And John he liked that red wagon, and he wanted it. And I had to remind him as he grew up. He came up and tipped it over with me in it. He wanted it. So that wasn't like him, but he did it.
When did you meet Doug? Did you meet him in high school or?
In junior college. Eagle Grove had a junior college. I think he came a little late, and because he was running a gas station, and that was his big desire. And then he changed his mind and decided to come to college. So he was late coming, and here comes this good-looking guy, you know. Everybody looking at him, and he called me up, and that was it.
Did you play basketball in junior college?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Was he a star?
Yes, he actually was. I mean, in his group,
Yeah.
his school, because he went to school in Goldfield, so I didn't meet him then till he came to Eagle Grove to college. And
Were you working somewhere then too?
in a drugstore. I worked behind the counter where we sold ice cream and
Soda
Coke.
fountain?
Soda fountain. I was a soda jerk.
I don't believe that.
That's what we called them in those days.
Yeah, I think you were.
Yeah, soda jerk. That's what I was.
You were
And just
queen of the soda jerks.
part time, you know, in a drugstore, and we had this little section. Very nice people that ran it, and so.
What were their names?
Kennefic.
Still Kennefic back then.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they were very nice people to work for.
I bet.
So I felt lucky because by that time my dad had died and my mother was struggling, you know. But they knew Mom, and they came and offered me a job, like after school and weekends, and that to start with. And I worked there quite a bit. A soda jerk, we called us.
Did you do any dancing?
I was a very good tap dancer. And even through high school, I still kept taking lessons, which most kids kind of take it when they're little, you know, and then they quit. But and I was very lucky because my mother thought everybody should have music training, and she made all of my older sisters go and take music lessons. And then she sent me, and I didn't do well at music lessons, and she let me quit and take tap dancing lessons. And I had a ball. It was fun. Yeah.
But were you named a queen of some event?
It was band queen. I was not in the band, but the band voted for somebody as band queen, and they voted me in, and I got to go to Mason City and ride in the back of a
Convertible?
A convertible, yes, and you know, it was kind of a big thrill for a kid in high school to sit up there, you know, on the back of a convertible and wave at the people. It was a big thrill.
Oh, yeah.
Did Doug go off to the war after you guys were married?
Yes. At first he was somewhere in Missouri, and
Training.
I could go and visit him a little bit, because I lived with his parents and they took care of Kay for me. They were very, very good to me and to Kay. Earl and Ethel. Earl was a barber.
Yeah.
He was a barber.
And Ethel was a stay-at-home wife.
Oh yeah, oh
Well,
yes.
Most were back then.
Is that the picture I have in my house?
Yeah.
The barber shop? Yeah. I have the strap to sharpen his blade
razor.
on.
Oh really?
Yeah, and a picture. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been very scary when Dad left for the war, because you had a baby,
Yeah.
and you didn't know when he'd be back or if he'd be back. Or it must have been very scary
It was.
for a young lady.
Yeah. It was.
And really the only communication, if any, would be writing letters, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
That's right.
Oh gosh, before we moved out, I kept all of his letters from China.
Yeah.
I wish I'd kept, but you know, sometimes you have to clear things out.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're gone. Unless somebody finds them in my basement here.
Maybe.
That would be neat, yeah.
Did he write you a lot while he was gone?
Pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
Doug was a cook. He was the head cook. He didn't actually do a lot of the cooking. He was more in charge of making menus and obtaining the food and that sort of thing. So that's what he did in the service, even overseas.
But he was in the war zone. It was not,
In China.
it wasn't a cushy job, because you were driving trucks and you were getting shot at. And,
Yeah.
just because you were a cook doesn't mean you weren't in the fray. Well, where did Dad go after that in the war?
The Burma Road.
Drove a supply truck.
Yeah, and he had some pictures of that, and that was quite a deal, because they went through mountains, and you'd look down, you know, straight down if you missed it. So it was quite a deal driving during the war on the Burma Road. You're bringing back memories I haven't had for a long time.
And then you also went to the West Coast while he was in the Army.
Yes, my sister Marion, the next oldest to me, had moved out there, and she was married, and she had a job working in the shipyards. And so I got kind of tired of living in Goldfield, you know, and so I went out and took Kay on the train, and which I was used to because my dad was a railroad man, and we traveled trains a lot. So I took my little baby Kay and went out to Washington State and lived with my sister and got a job where she was working, and then my mother came out and took care of our two little ones. So that was kind of a nice adventure for me.
You're talking to Rosie the Riveter.
Yeah.
All we did was add figures, checking out figures for ships.
You were in the
Charging,
accounting department, weren't you?
something like that, I suppose that's, so, yeah. Yeah, the war years were kind of touchy, you know.
Uh-huh.
When Doug first came home from the service, we moved out to the family's owned a farm. And he wanted to farm, which he never had, but he had some family help. And so we moved out, yes, and we didn't have running water. And that was a shock to me because I had never faced that before. But after a short while, then Grandpa Atterbury came through and put in water lines and pipes. And boy, oh boy, we had water. Didn't have to, water is heavy to carry. If you have to, we mostly just carried our drinking water, from one shed up to the house. But it was a big thrill to get it in the house. My children, well, each one is different, you know that. They were the joy of my life. I mean, that's the one thing that I'm proudest of my life is my children. So I think they had it pretty good for the time. Yeah, we got by pretty good, didn't we? Yeah.
Tell them what kind of pizza you invented for Lent.
Cheese pizza.
No, it's more than that.
What?
Tuna fish.
Oh, getting through Lent, oh dear, it was hard.
With all those kids to feed.
Because back then you couldn't eat meat at all through Lent, right? It wasn't just Fridays.
On Fridays, you never ate meat.
Yeah. And
other days, we were very limited.
Yeah.
And it was kind of hard to. So the kids liked pizza, and I guess I had used tuna fish to make pizza.
Did anybody eat it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. As long as you called it pizza, you were okay. Oh dear. Now you're getting back into the good old days, aren't you?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. No, I did not know I was going to have twins. And when they told me just before it was time to have the twins, they told me, and I remember I said to him, I can't have twins. I already have 4 children. I remember that. That's funny what you remember. Well, yeah, to have 2, and you're not prepared for 2. But it all worked out. I came from a family of 5 children.
Right.
So that to me was good.
5 would be good.
Mm-hmm. But then I had 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was a different time and way of life.
Certainly.
In those days, and
not too many have that many children anymore.
Yeah. So it was a happy time. I'll put it that way. Little babies are awfully cute. Good old days, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it was quite different then, and I haven't realized it till you start asking a lot of these questions, how different it was in those days because of the war and so forth, and the way people lived, and yeah, because I'm 96,
Yeah.
recently 96. Yep, things have changed, haven't they?
Yeah,
Yep.
sure have.
Amen?
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I got